The topic today in economics is basic economic problems, which is chapter one. Yeah. Before we go into the basic economic problems, basically the problem of the society, most people think it's money, but it's not always money. It's scarcity. And when we talk about scarcity, we're talking about limited needs and unlimited wants, as finite needs and infinite wants. Why is it the problem? The problem is that it's a problem because most of the time, whatever we need to buy in terms of goods or services being rendered to us, we have to pay for them. It's not always free. If it were to be free, that means there's no scarcity. But for the fact that we have to strive to buy, we have to compete with other customers to buy, that means there's scarcity of resources. So what are these resources we're talking about? We're talking about the factors of production, which is the land, the labor, the capital, and the enterprise. So most of the time, we always try to buy. It's not like, yeah, we always try to buy because we have to buy. If we don't have money, we don't buy. Yes. Well, the problem is not the money. The problem is that the resources are not sufficient enough. The resources are not enough with the population. So the only way out is to sell it. This is why businesses will sell because they want to make profit out of it because they have also invested. They also have to buy this. They also have to buy this equipment. They also have to buy these resources before they turn it into finished goods. So everybody has to buy because the resources are not free. So it's not like the air we breathe in, which is free for all. That's why we're not paying for air. So we already know that the basic problem of the economy is scarcity. So what is scarcity? We said limited resources plus unlimited wants for goods and services. So what is economics itself? Economics is a social science which studies human behavior in relationship between ends and scarce means that have alternative uses. So what we simply means is that there's the human relationship. There's how we have to balance things up, how we have to manage scarce resources, because these resources are scarce, as we said earlier. So we need to manage them. We need to allocate them. So in allocation of resources, that means we have to make choices. In allocation of resources, there will always be opportunity cost. So in allocation of resources, there's going to be opportunity cost, there's going to be choice that has to be made, and there's going to be what we call the scale of preference. So we take it one at a time. We talked about limited resources already. We talked about the basic economic problems, the unlimited ones for goods and services. So making a choice. So here, making a choice. When you have to make a choice, it means you are unable to afford everything that you really needed. So that means you have to make a choice. And what does choice means? Choice means that you're taking a decision based on your scale of preference. Choice means what? Decision that has been taken or decision that has to be taken based on your scale of preference. What is a scale of preference? Scale of preference is the arrangement of our needs and wants according to how important they are. So most of the time when they tell you to make up a list of things you want or you need, you make sure that the first one, the ones on top of the list are those ones that have much interest, that you have more interest on, those ones that you really want at any point in time, you really want them as soon as possible. That's how we make a list. So when you make a list based on how important these resources are, or these needs are, or wants, then you are making a scale of preference. So what makes us to come to a scale of preference? There's always a choice that has to be made. And because a choice has to be made, there's going to be opportunity cost. So scarcity will lead to what we call opportunity cost. Opportunity cost will make us to make a choice. Scarcity will lead us to having opportunity cost. Opportunity cost will lead to making a choice. Choice will be made based on our scale of preference. So, what is now that we have to make a choice? There's always what we call the opportunity cost, which is what the cost of making choices, whereby the next best alternative is forgone. It's written here, the cost of making choices, whereby the next best alternative is forgone. So because we can't afford everything at any point in time, because there's scarcity of good factors of production, it means we have to make a choice. And because of us making a choice, it means that certain things will be let go. So making a choice means that you are making a decision about your priorities. So making a decision about your priorities means that some things will be let go. So those things that you didn't choose, those things that you decided to let go at this present time or for now becomes your opportunity cost. The choice you made becomes your real cost. That is what you're paying for. The choice you didn't make is your opportunity cost, is the next best alternative that is forgone. So I'm going to cite an example. Maybe you have to choose between economics and taking chemistry in school. You decide to take economics, then chemistry becomes, you have a choice between choosing chemistry and economics, and you choose economics. So chemistry becomes your opportunity cost. Then economics becomes your real cost. That is what we meant by opportunity cost. A choice has been made, a decision has been taken, and you have let go of what you think is not paramount at the present situation. So that is what we mean by opportunity cost. So we go back to the allocation of resources. What kind of resources are we allocating? We are allocating scarce resources, which are the land, the labor, the capital, and the enterprise. These factors of productions, they have to be allocated. And because of allocating them, it means that we need to make a choice. We have to make a choice. So for factors of production are resources that helps in the production of goods and services. So the producers, these are the producers. The producers, they make use of the factors of production. They make use of land, they make use of labor, they make use of capital, they make use of enterprise. There wouldn't be anything produced in this world without the factors of production, whatever it is, in terms of goods or services, we need the factors of production. That's why we said factors of production are the resources that helps in the production of goods and services. So for the consumers, what do they need? They need money, they need time, and they need effort, because they have to strive. They have to strive to be able to buy this product. So that's why they need efforts too. So on the consumer side, they need money, they need the time to get it, and they need the effort. So that is about allocation of resources. Then we go back to the opportunity cost again, and leading us to what we call the production possibility curve. So when we talk about the production possibility curves, the possibility curve, it's a graph. This is a graph that shows the maximum of output that a country can produce or a company can produce at a given point in time. The maximum of what can be produced at a given point in time is what we call the graph that shows the maximum of what can be produced at any given point in time is what we call the production possibilities curve. So let's look at this diagram here. On the vertical side, we have the output Y, and the horizontal side, we have the output X. It means at any point in time, either you produce to the maximum of output Y, or you produce the maximum of output X. So based on this graph, output Y on the vertical side can be produced, the maximum can be produced at point A, while at the same time, output X on the horizontal side, the maximum can be at point B. That is about output Y and output X. So if you are producing output Y at the highest, it means output X will be at the lowest at this point here. At this point here, output X will be at the lowest. Output X will be at the lowest at this point here. At this point here, output X will be the lowest here. So I'm trying to highlight, let's see if I can. So output X will be at the lowest at the same point here. That is, if we are producing output Y, that means you make a choice of producing at output Y. This economy cannot produce at the same time output X and Y. So if you are choosing to produce, if you make a choice, if you have decided to produce at output X, the maximum you produce is at point A here. Then at that point in time, output X will be minimal at this point highlighted in red. Then if you decided to produce at output X, then the highest you could produce at output X is highlighted here. It's highlighted here. The maximum that can be produced is for output X is at B. If the highest produced at output X is at B, then it means the A will be minimal at the same point here. So when you check throughout these points, it means output X will be at the highest here. This is the highest for output X, but at the same time, output Y will be at the lowest at this point in time. And remember again, for output Y, the maximum can be produced at this point. At this point, then the minimum will be at this point. At this point. So what it means is that you can produce either output Y at the maximum or output X at the maximum. So if you have made a choice, because based on opportunity cost, you have made a choice in producing output X, you have your highest at B and you have your lowest at A. The same highlight. But if you have made a choice to produce at output Y, it means you have your highest at point A, you have your lowest at this point B. So that's about that. Now we check about C and D. To check about C and D, what does it really imply? So it means there are two situations about the production possibility curve. So based on what we have here, this point D, there's a situation about point D. Let me just highlight first and get what we're talking about. At point D, it means there's an outward shift in the production possibility curve. There's an outward shift in the production possibility curve. And at point C, it means that there's an inward shift in the production possibility curve. At C, it means there's an inward shift in the production possibility curve. So what are these two situations? Here, it means at point Y, the output of Y can increase at D, the output of X can increase at D. So either B can have an outward shift at D, or A can have an outward shift at D. What are the situations that would occur which will enable output A to have output Y to have an outward shift to point D from A? And what are the situations that will make output X to have an outward shift from B to D? As from A, output Y, from A to D. So what are the situations that will occur? One, availability of raw materials. When raw materials are available, it means you can produce more of goods and services. Two, government policies such as subsidies. Subsidies are financial help from government. So with subsidies, businesses will be able to produce further as the cost of production would have fallen. That would also shift the output outward from A to D for output Y, or for output X from B to D. Another situation that will occur that will lead to an outward shift in the production possibilities curve is advancement in technology. We already know that technology will make things become easier. So as a result of that, each output, either output Y or output X, can increase, can be more efficient, can be more productive because of technology. So technology would make improvements in technology will allow our output to improve, will increase our output. So these three conditions like I mentioned now will shift our production possibility curve diagram from A to D or from B to D. I'm going to say that again. An outward shift can be conditioned based on advancement in technology, which is an improvement in technology. It increased productivity. Two, availability of raw materials. That also increases output. And C, government policies such as subsidies. These three things would always shift our production possibility curve outward from A to D or from B to D. So that's the line here, the pink line I use, which is highlighted by blue now. So that is for production possibility curve and outward shift. We call it outward shift. Then we go to C. So point D is what we call the outward shift. Then we go to point C. For point C means an inward is going to the left side now. The PC is going inward to C, from A to C, from A to C, or from B to C. There are situations that will occur which will cause our production PPC curve, the PPC, to shift inward. One, lack of raw materials. Without raw materials, we are unable to produce. We won't be able to produce. So as a result of this, the PPC will shift inward. Output will fall. Number two, the natural disaster. So natural disaster like tsunami, like the earthquake, these things disrupt production. And if it happens, or in any place that it happens, or wherever it happens, it reduces their output. Another reason why we could have a PPC shifting inward is because of war. War can also lead to a reduction in the output. Another one is taxation. Government policy like taxation. Taxation increases the cost of production. And as a result of this, firms, businesses might choose to leave a country to find countries that have less taxes to pay, that they have to pay, because taxation is part of a cost of production. So if taxation increases in a country, businesses that produce in such country might leave. And if they do leave, it means the output in that country will fall. So that will shift the PPC curve inward to C. So these are the reasons why we can have an inward shift in the PPC and an outward shift in the PPC. An outward shift in the PPC, again, let me just quickly do a review about that. An outward shift in the PPC would be as a result of advancement in technology, subsidy, availability of raw materials. And an inward shift in the PPC could be as a result of war, natural disaster, taxation, and lack of raw materials. This could also shift the PPC inward. So what makes us to go to the PPC? We go to the PPC based on the fact that there's opportunity cost. And when there's opportunity cost, it means that we need to make a choice. We need to decide on what to produce. Like either we produce at output Y or we produce output X. So this is all about the basic economic problem. Once again, the basic economic problem is scarcity, and scarcity will lead us to making a choice. So the basic economic problem is scarcity, and scarcity will lead us to making a choice. And making a choice means that we are deciding on our scale of preference, which is what making a list about our priorities. So if we think output Y is what we could produce better, we'll produce it. If it is output X, we have to decide on. So that's about PPC, production possibility curve, which is what a graph. This is a graph that shows the maximum that can be produced in a given economy, or the maximum of output that can be produced in terms of goods and services. Either we produce the maximum of output X at B, or we produce the maximum of output Y at A. And that's all about the basic economic problem. If there's any question, you can put it on the comment section. Thank you.